Here's another financial principle that we don't get taught in schools. Appreciation is really difficult to spend. There's a lot of friction there because when you have an asset that appreciates, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, but accessing that appreciation has lots of frictions built in. You have to go out and qualify maybe for a loan. Maybe you can't qualify for a loan. Even if you do, it takes time for that loan to process. Or you have to sell the asset, potentially be impacted by tax impacts. Lots of friction. Because when you're hungry, it's not like you can just pick up a house and take it to the grocery store and buy eggs with it. But you can spend cash flow. And as real humans, that's what we need. We need the ability to spend. And when you control an asset that generates cash flow for you, you have the capability of increasing what you charge your customers to deal with the real life scenario of what's going on in the broader economy. But so many people get pushed into a life of fixed income. They don't plan out what their next steps are going to be over the course of the next decade or two. And then they have to rely on this thing called Social Security, which is a fixed income environment where you're locked in with the amount of money. Maybe you get a cost of living adjustment, but that doesn't really deal with the truth of what happens in the economy. The cost of living adjustment for Social Security recently was 6.5%, 7%. Sounds beautiful, right? But the real inflation rate is in the double digits. I'm not talking about the inflation rate that the current government shares on media, right? Here's the truth about that number. The only reason why inflation is going down right now is because they changed how they calculate inflation. They're using a different formula. And because of the different formula, it's showing the inflation numbers coming down. If you were using the same formula that existed 5 years ago, inflation is nearly 21%. You heard that right. And you know it to be true because just go to the grocery store. And how much does it cost for a carton of eggs and a gallon of milk? How much have rents gone up over the course of the past 2 years? Like, this is truth. You gave me permission to tell you the truth. This is truth. If you rely on a fixed income environment in the future, you are relying on the probability of being poor because you have no control over the spigot. Whereas if you rely on asset accumulation, acquiring businesses, acquiring real estate, both of those have a capability for you in the driver's seat to adjust pricing based on what's really happening in the world. Like, you can increase cash flow based on the control of the asset. So when it comes to financial independence date planning, it's really about asset accumulation because it's not about accumulating cash for retirement. It's about accumulating cash flow for retirement because cash flow can be spent. Cash gets spent down. That's a difference of concept, right? Cash or a portfolio gets spent down. Cash flow is sustainable. It gives you the ability to live life without the burden of the constraint of fear that you're going to outlive your money. This is a number of years back now. Going on like 14 or 15 years ago, I did some volunteer work for an organization called Kiwanis. It was a 3-day volunteer thing at a nursing home facility where we came in and we just spent time with those who were well into their upper years. And I can tell you that the vast majority of those that were there were not truly happy, genuinely not happy. It's interesting what happens when you get exposed to those who are in a state of perpetual regret because they didn't take advantage of the time they had when they had it. When you're looking at your financial tomorrow, my real question to you is, will you meet your future self and be happy with regard to how you invested your time, or will you regret it? Meaning regret the fact that you didn't invest it wisely. That's the real rub. When it comes to the concept of retirement planning, if you just replace the word retirement with financial freedom, then you focus on figuring out how to reverse engineer the steps to keep a state of financial freedom alive for you forever, which means you've acquired the assets that will generate the cash flow for you that you need to support the lifestyle you want. It doesn't take much. This is an exercise you have to do. I can't do it for you. But calculate how much you're spending right now. Like, how much realistically do you spend each and every month? And if that number, let's say that number's on the higher end of the spectrum. Let's say it's $10,000 per month. It's $120,000 a year. So then the question is, how many assets would you have to acquire to generate that amount of cash flow for you? How many pieces of real estate? How many businesses? And you have to figure out that number, right? You have to figure it out, but then reverse engineer the steps, put in a plan, and then start acquiring those assets. That will lead you to a life of true financial freedom. But if you buy into the lie that Wall Street is selling you, that you can simply just sock away $10,000 or $20,000 a year into a 401k plan and believe that that's going to support you for the rest of your quote unquote golden years, you're going to be one of the people that I met in that nursing home regretting how they chose to utilize the time they had. Most people who participate in retirement plans do it in a traditional way. They do the tax deferral approach, right? They're contributing money into a tax deferred account. I gave a presentation a couple of years ago to a group of individuals, and I asked the audience, by a show of hands, how many people in the room had a 401k? And pretty much every hand went up. And I pointed to one of the people in the audience and I said to him, I said, okay, how much of your 401k is yours? He sort of got this weird look on his face and he looked around a little bit just to test the waters to make sure he wasn't going to say anything stupid. He goes, all of it. It's my 401k. I said, unfortunately, you're wrong. Traditional 401ks are half owned by your dear old Uncle Sam. So even if you amass $1 million, 500,000 of that ain't yours. $2 million in the portfolio, $1 million of it isn't yours. $5 million in that portfolio, $2.5 million of it is not yours. But juxtapose that with an actual asset that generates cash flow. If you orient yourself to acquire $1 million worth of real estate, you may have debt that's associated with that acquisition, but that debt burden isn't yours. Not really, because you have tenants that service that debt, but you get the cash flow. That net operating income is yours. And if you acquire enough pools of net operating income to support your lifestyle, that's what true financial freedom is all about, which is why I spend so much time helping our community learn those precepts, learn those foundational financial principles. Thanks for watching. If you got value from this video and you'd like to see other videos on the topic of retirement strategy, go ahead and check this one out.